Welcome, Carm Capriato, the Service Aftermarkets podcast pioneer with the gold standard of aftermarket business podcasts. Join me for Aftermarket Insights as we advance the aftermarket. And as always, know that you'll learn just one thing. Find us on your favorite podcast listening app and remarkableresults.biz or on my YouTube channel. Hey everybody, Carm Capriato, Remarkable Results Radio. Good to see you. Thank you for your loyalty over all the years. We're 1,000+ episodes just with Remarkable Results Radio. You gotta get involved in my declaration, The Rise of the Mechanical and Technology Specialist. You got to read my 12-page declaration. It's available to you to get it, to download it, remarkableresults.biz/rise. I've been going out and giving keynotes to a ton of great places, not only all this year, but already booked for next. It is a revolutionary language shift in the industry. This all came to me after 9.5 years of doing this and the feel that I have to advance this industry. So please do a favor for yourself and read this. There's an implementation guide in it also. And also, in honor of the 1,000th episode, I wrote a paper by taking in everything that has ever been told to me with CEO strategies. It's the top 12 CEO strategies that I've learned in the first 1,000+ episodes of RRR. You can get that at remarkableresults.biz/CEO, or all of this is on my downloads page on my website. And thank you. I'd like to introduce my guest to you, Anders Gustafson. How you doing, man?
I'm well. How are you, Carm?
Good. Co-founder of ShopLevers. Kind of love that name because I do talk a lot on the show about pulling a lever and stuff. It's so interesting. Anders has a most incredible background, having been a shop owner for lots of years, and says, you know what? I made a few mistakes, sold a business. I mean, a successful business, 10 years, multi-million-dollar, couple of shops, 18 people worked for you. I just love your background story and the challenges that you had. I know you're bringing to ShopLevers. We want to talk about some of the stuff that Anders has learned over the years. And one of the things that we talked about in our icebreaker call was the news. I really have to tell you, that is a really powerful takeaway. Everybody knows Carm. He loves to find some really neat little topics or phrases, and maybe people can get that to come inside. The news is the numbers. This is what you were telling Carm. The news is the numbers. If you don't like the news, change the news. It's just about, that hit me on top of my head.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I think part of the struggle is what we said is that the way people use numbers right now is that they have access to reports and data. And I say that those reports and data are reporting the news. And a lot of people will just hear the news and like you said, are happy to either sit and do nothing about it, just absorb it. But very few people sort of take the next step to stand up and say, okay, well, if I don't like the news or if I don't understand the news, what do I need to change and what do I need to do to affect the change that I want? You think that analogy is really helpful when it comes to running a shop for folks who are not comfortable with numbers.
It's so strong. And, one of the things that I remember you telling me, well, then find out the why, Carm. Find out the why. And that gets now in depth, under the covers, if you will. Look, I got all these numbers to look at. I got the P&L from the accountant. I've got all my stats and KPIs on my shop management system. And is this good? Is it not? I know that there's some standards I have to live up to, but why or how can I actually change them? Which is, I think, kind of where you are with ShopLevers.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I think a lot of shop owners are confronted by a double whammy, which is they're maybe not necessarily comfortable with numbers to begin with. And then in some ways, they are drowning in numbers, right? All the software tools and the different applications that we use to run our business nowadays all have reporting features and all can tell you different things and measure different things. And so you are not only feeling unsure about what to look at, but then you have lots of different things to look at, which creates issues where you can not only look at the wrong things, but also draw the wrong conclusions.
When you got into business, did you get in it for all the right reasons?
I think so. Why automotive appealed to me was that I saw the opportunity to build a sustainable business, but also I was just naturally drawn, have always naturally been drawn to that helping the idea that you could help others and have a business, right? I mean, I think automotive repair is just so ideal for that mindset that it really lends itself to people who want to help. And it's my personal opinion, and one of the foundations behind ShopLevers is that it's also a fantastic business opportunity for aspiring entrepreneurs. So I think you do it because you want to grow a business, but you also do it because you want to help people.
But never get into it because you just want to fix cars. It's way more than that.
The misunderstanding, especially for technicians turned shop owners, or for a lot of folks who look at our industry, is assuming that fixing cars is the business. And the analogy I sometimes use is Hershey's sells chocolate. The chocolate is the product, but chocolate is not the business. And in the same way, selling parts and labor is the product, fixing cars is the product, but it is not the business. And you have to appreciate those distinctions if you're going to succeed.
So, Carm, why do you eat Hershey bars? Why do you eat Snickers and Milky Ways? Let's not go there.
No, but you're right, because it's the way it makes you feel. And so I get into trouble with certain folks because I have this kind of this opinion that not everyone agrees 100% with. But what I say is we don't sell parts and labor. We sell peace of mind. And that's factually inaccurate. We sell parts and labor. What we kind of offer is peace of mind. And it runs the entire gamut in terms of how you attract that customer, to how you treat them when they're in the shop, to how you interact with them afterwards.
Yeah.
But what they're really after is peace of mind. They're not necessarily after new brakes.
Why are we paying $125 a ticket to go to Disney? They're not selling rides, they're selling an experience.
Yes. No.
And everything that we talk about of late for the last couple of years on the podcast, and that is being taught by some of the greatest minds in our industry, shared blogs, written webinars on, is the customer experience.
Yeah.
And so basically everything that you do, you're fixing cars, you're buying parts, you're charging labor, you're training your people, but it all ends up rolling down to what was that experience for that customer? It's a painful thing for people to want to have to get their cars fixed. Ouch. It's an ouch moment. Let them feel great about it. Stop fixing their cars and fixing their experience.
That's it. And I think if you can start to make that distinction, that's where the financial parts of it become a little more obvious, right? Because you no longer have to only pay for parts and technicians. You understand that the entire life cycle needs to be covered. And the only thing that you can do to generate revenue to cover those expenses is parts and labor. And that's why pricing and car count and all the different things that affect both your top line and your bottom line now all of a sudden have to fall into line in order to cover everything else that you need to do.
Yeah, I totally agree. We get a lot of data in our industry. Some people don't, and they better start, and they should. And if not, I think they're awfully challenged and they're not going to make it. But we need to start thinking our shop more of a financial model than it is anything else. And I don't want to, bring the numbers out. Numbers are a heavy lift for a lot of people, but it's a great business. It's all about customer experience. But at the end of the day, you can't produce a great customer experience and fix their cars unless you really understand your financial model and what your goal of profitability, sustainable, so the business can sustain itself. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's sort of starting with the end in mind, or the goal in mind, and working backwards. When I think about the shop as a financial model, I was fortunate enough to have been taught that you can offer parts at this markup range. You can offer labor at this range and pay employees in this range. All of a sudden, I start to see all the ratios, and you start to understand, okay, what will I have left over to cover all of my other expenses? And now, it's a much simpler question, because if I know what I have to pay for to deliver my product in parts and services, if I know what's left over after my gross profit, now I can get really strategic and start to think about, okay, how am I going to use this money for marketing? And it's no longer just a question of I'm going to throw money at marketing. It's I have this amount of money for marketing and I need to make sure I'm as effective as possible. And it can be said for any other part of the business that you need to cover, or any other expense of the business that you need to cover.
Anders, what's the greatest lift that you have with clients when they say, hey, you're right, got to do this, let's get together, and you start doing your analysis, you look at what the great need is. What are you finding out there? What's the biggest lift?
It almost always starts something around pricing. Pricing is still the biggest challenge for a lot of folks in terms of understanding.
But you've heard this over and over again, social media. Oh, you hire a coach. He's going to tell you to raise your labor rate, raise your gross profit margin. Done. So why don't you do it? Why hire a coach? Because people can't. They don't know how. They're not expert at it. They're bashful. They're afraid. Help me with this.
Let me take a small step backwards, because it's not, that is the conclusion that you find yourself in. But again, if we start with the end in mind, I think what most folks really struggle with when it comes to the numbers and data is linking what they want to achieve and how they're going to achieve it to results that can be measured. So in the introduction, you mentioned the document you just put out about lessons from 1,000 episodes.
Yeah, the CEO strategies, yeah.
Right. And so there were 2 points right after one another. One that I think was, you called it profit is not the enemy, or, essentially know your numbers.
Yeah.
And then the second one was procedures. Procedures will save you. Where I kind of like to work the guys that I work with is how to turn data and numbers into procedures and how they kind of live together. That if I know that I have to hit a certain gross profit margin, a certain technician productivity level, I have to design the way the business is run to achieve those. And I need to think about it. And vice versa, if I'm not achieving them, if I'm measuring it, but I'm not achieving it, I need to go back and look at my procedures and understand why. So to your original question, the bigger challenge is not just pricing. It is the fact that there are so many different ways that you could optimize your business that people don't understand which ones to start with, and they don't know how to relate that to the everyday actions of what's going on in the shop.
Apex 2024, one of the best industry training and expo events, is now in the record books. Joe's Garage at Apex brought the best and the brightest together to create an interactive experience like no other. The concentration on emerging technology was cutting edge, along with the latest in tools and equipment that bring efficiencies to your shop, which is another reason to attend Apex. There were more than 60 training sessions for technical, business management, and HR. You participated in the EV experience stage at Joe's Garage along with ADAS technology. If you did not attend, I bet you wished you had. Apex created specialty sections to make it super easy to find your area of interest, like the tire service section, tools and equipment, the diagnostics telematics shop, and of course the EV experience. New in 2024 was the student competition on an engine build, and features inside of Joe's Garage were from Autel, BG Products, NAPA, Hunter Engineering, Bosch, Repairify Coats, and Solid Start, among others. Mark your calendar for Apex 2025, November 4th through the 6th in Las Vegas. Listen here to learn about exciting events planned for 2025 and when you can start registering. Hey, let's face it, your shop management system is the single most important tool in your shop, period. NAPA Trax has made selecting the right shop management system easy by offering the industry's best, most comprehensive SMS. Now, it all starts when a local representative meets with you to learn about your business and how you need to run it. After all, it's your shop, so it's your choice, and having local representation is a huge plus. Customizing Trax to your business, whether you're a one-person shop or a large multi-bay or multi-location company, a representative consults with you to help optimize your shop's workflow, efficiency, and profitability. Trax always has the flexibility to do business how you need to do it, which means it can also grow as your business grows. And unlike the other guys, will be there for you after installation with the best training and support in the business. Yes, a learning management system tailored to each role in your company. Simply put, Trax was designed and built for shop owners just like you. Visit us on the web at NAPATRACS, that's NAPATRACS.com. Hey, ever wonder how your labor rate compares to your market and state? You now have a site where you can confidentially upload your rate and see other labor rates published in your market. LaborRateTracker.com is an important site to know about. Currently, the database has over 1,000 shops participating and growing every day. But there's more to setting your rates than finding out what others charge. You should look at the labor rates in your state and town to gain a complete picture of the labor rate landscape. Hey, it's easy. Get market intelligence like never before at LaborRateTracker.com. So what are the great moments? Bing! It finally resonates. Oh my God, Anders, I got it. Share one, even though don't give me a name or two. Just share that. I think we want to do things, but we don't think it's going to help.
We don't think it's going to help. And that's where I have one core belief that I have is you can't fix everything at once. We do have lots of different metrics. And part of the process is trying to understand, okay, if I have 10, 15, 20 different metrics that I'm looking at, I have to be able to understand which one has the greatest impact, whatever I'm trying to achieve. So not all shop owners are saying, I want more revenue, right? I mean, I work with guys who their goal is not necessarily to double the size of their shop. It's tweak, it's optimizing, it's making better. But you have to start with that goal in mind and work backwards. So I think that what I always try to encourage is say, pick one. What is one thing, one area where we could improve that would have a significant improvement on your goals and typically on your life? One that, comes up all the time is, and it's a really tricky one though, is technician efficiency. And this ratio of how many hours a technician works to how many hours a technician bills. And there are so many different opinions on what that number should be. Guys who are saying it needs to be 100. Technicians should be turning more hours than they're working, to guys who will allow their shop to operate at 30-40% efficiency and are afraid to rock the boat and tell technicians that that's not acceptable. That's a classic one where we just sort of start to work through, okay, how does this number relate to the procedures that you have set up? And what are some simple tweaks that we can make within the procedures to improve that?
When you were talking about procedures and you were talking about how it generates a certain degree of success and or profit, if we can get all this stuff working together, I guess my listener knows that Carm's brain's always working, 724. And I was thinking about pulling through or pushing through as a concept of, listen, we've got this profit goal, here it is, and we need to pull that profit goal through, pull it through, or we can go up top, if you will, look at our margins, look at our productivities, and push it through.
And push it.
Interesting concept.
Yeah.
Instead of pulling it through, pushing it through. I don't know if I'm right or wrong on that, but that was how my brain was working then.
Yeah, I think that syncs up very, very nicely with our levers concept, right?
Okay. So yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest complaint about most reporting tools, data in general, as we discussed, they report the news. They sort of show everything out there. It assumes that the person using it is comfortable or able to make the connections between everything that is being presented. So I mean, a basic question that I often start with, and I think this relates to your push or pull, is like, okay, if you have a revenue problem, do you have a car count problem or do you have an ARO problem? Because revenue is literally just a product of the two. And it's just a simple exercise that some folks don't really take the time to understand. That if my revenue is not growing as quickly as I can, is it because I am not attracting as many customers as I need to? Or is it because somewhere in my processes of selling, I'm not converting on opportunities? And I think that's what you're going at, the pushing, right? I now know this.
Yeah, there's so much more to look at on the top side, the push, if you will,
right,
than the pull. Although you can pull the cord, but not necessarily if you have this loop up top, are you going to pull all the right things? So in my mind, and I don't know where I'm going, this is a bad rabbit hole, maybe, Anders, but it's almost like, look at all these different segments
Yeah.
from your people, your customers first, personal development, continuous education, all that stuff, all of those are pushes.
They're all pushes. And that's where it becomes overwhelming, because there's, like you just named a handful, but there's a lot more, right? There's so many things that you can do. And it's trying to relate the finite amount of time and effort and energy that you have to what will have the greatest impact to your business. And a lot of people can be successful operating on gut or instinct, but not everyone. And that's where the numbers can be very helpful. And if you know what you're looking for, if you have someone who can help guide you to that answer, it's such a simpler process.
Do you do a lot of why discovery with your people? This is, listen, I'm really struggling with this. Okay, let me tell you what to do. Or why do you think you're struggling with that?
Always, always have to ask questions. It just never stating something or stating an opinion is very rarely.
Your job as a coach is not to always explain how to, but to discover the root cause of the why.
It's to diagnose, right?
Diagnose. Oh my God, there you go. Where have I ever heard that term before?
And it's to help the shop owner diagnose, right? It's to help the shop owner self-diagnose, right? Yeah. That's where I think the golden outcome for any coach would be is to work themselves out of a job, and that a shop owner or client can start to answer these questions his or herself and get to the conclusions that really make a difference.
So being able to create an action plan for a client, is that one of your heaviest lifts as a coach?
So it's not that I create the action plan per se. What I try to do is, again, get you into a mindset, a level of comfort with your numbers, so that you are, every day, those actions are happening and you are tracking them. That was poorly explained.
Oh, but I'm so far with you.
It was just sort of, I took it for granted when I opened my shop, but I knew what I was working towards, right? I knew what my objectives were on very granular level.
But was it to sell your business in X amount of years?
No.
It wasn't. Okay.
No. I'm talking about when you first start, like, the main thing that you want to do is get in as many customers as you can that day and generate some sales. And hopefully they are profitable sales. But in order to do that, this goes back to the idea that, the business is not just parts and labor. The business is the whole thing, right? Okay, I know that I need to provide a warm greeting when that customer shows up, right?
I don't think many technicians on their first day of opening their shops appreciate that.
Yeah, well, I mean, these are the sorts of things, right? So, okay, as simple as I need a procedure on how to greet. It sounds ridiculous, right?
No, it's powerful.
And within procedures, obviously, you always have to have some wiggle room, but I need a procedure for how to greet, what we're going to do in greeting, what information we're going to collect. Because what it really led into was the next step of understanding what was the customer's complaint. Understanding what is the customer's complaint immediately falls into dispatching and all of this stuff. Like, you see how from step one, greeting the customer has direct impact on the way the vehicle gets processed, repaired, and ultimately impacts the customer's experience, that you have to take care of it. And so you track these things, right? We didn't have a great way to track how quickly you greeted a customer, but we did track, for example, that time difference between when a vehicle arrived and the first time that the service advisor was able to make contact with them afterwards. Mm-hmm. And the goal is not as quickly as possible. This is where you have to know that.
How about as smartly as possible?
I mean, you have to work in it, like, you have to allow the right amount of time for all of the other things down the line to happen, for the vehicle to get diagnosed, for recommendations to be written up properly, for estimates to be built correctly. And all of a sudden now you have a window, and you're constantly tracking to see where above or beyond that window, and if someone's doing it too quickly or someone's doing it too slowly. These are like little tiny things, not financials, right? Not parts markup, not labor rate. These are little things that we're tracking that I know if we do them correctly, our business will grow. Because, again, what the customer wants is that great experience. And we determined that this time between drop off to contact provides the best experience.
Do you believe in flat rate?
I don't, but it's
Did you
As
use it
someone,
in your shop?
no, but there's a
Okay.
funny story to that. Only that, again, I entered the shop as a, I don't know a better way to call it, as a business opportunity, right? I saw that
That's
I had,
smart.
yeah, I saw that well-run shops generated profits, and
Where'd
that,
you see that though? Where'd you discover that? Where you used to work?
yeah, I had the fortune of working for a regional chain of shops,
Okay.
ones that I thought were, very well operated,
Okay.
working for them as in their office as a data analyst. And
Ah,
yeah, so I was able to see, okay, this is what their shops are achieving. This makes sense as a business opportunity. The funny story about it is,
let me stop you. So many, not so many. I know an awful lot of shop owners. I'm going to guess at least a dozen that came into our industry from the outside. And they saw this as a great, like you said, business opportunity, not a chance to take my technician skills because they don't know how to turn a wrench. And they're extremely successful and growing and pillars of our industry because they approached it day one, minute one, like you said, is a business opportunity.
it's a business opportunity. It's answering the sort of entrepreneurial itch that I have. And
We're on this kick of late where a lot of people are saying we're not calling people that own shops shop owners. We're calling them business people.
I think shop owners should be called entrepreneurs. I think entrepreneurs get revered in our culture, and for some reason, shop owners get called shop owners. Like that's all it is. Whereas I think someone who goes out and does the work to figure out everything that must go into running a successful shop deserves and should call himself a successful entrepreneur. But anyway, the flat rate question, the only funny story is, again, I was an outsider of the industry. So when someone first explained flat rate to me, I actually thought it was illegal. I said, I was under the impression, I was 25 or 26. I was under the impression that, that there was a minimum wage everywhere. I didn't have quite enough life
All right.
experience, yet to understand,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just a frame of reference that was unfamiliar to me. And it never crossed my mind as being a tool that I would use. I can see, it's a conversation that comes up a lot, and especially for technicians turned shop owners who were paid on flat rate as employees, there is a strong bend to continue that and a nervousness and a fear to go away from it. But I liken so many things back to you are an entrepreneur. You are a successful business owner. Do not bucket yourself into that you are a shop owner, that things need to be done the way that they've always been done.
Yeah, the word shop, it defines it all. I
Right.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm a shop. What's a shop? I mean, let's go into this whole language shift of mine.
Yes.
Please,
Yeah. Yeah.
please define shop to me. And a wood shop, a metal shop, pick a shop name. I
That's
love your whole
right.
point. It's entrepreneur or it's business person, businessman, businesswoman. And I think that if you go through life knowing that you're more than a shop owner, you could be a cupcake shop owner, but
Yeah.
really they're bakers, aren't they?
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah.
They're bakers. It's an elevation. It's a lift, just like
Yeah.
business person is. And I think that takes an individual's thinking. I always talk about big think and pulling your intuition from your deep gut. I believe people have it, but they sometimes don't initialize it. They don't listen to it.
That's a key feature of a successful entrepreneur is that gut feeling.
Oh, it is. It
Yeah,
is.
and its willingness to figure it out, I think, is kind of the number one skill that a successful entrepreneur in any industry has. And that is where the folks who start in our industry and decide to become entrepreneurs, open their own shop, the successful ones know what they are willing to admit what they don't know and start to figure it out. And the
Very good.
unsuccessful ones assume that they know it and don't want to figure it out because they don't see that there's something to be learned.
You just dropped a whole bunch on us right there. Hey, let's talk about when you sold your business. You did something really interesting for your people.
I did. Yeah. When this was the beginning. I was very proud to be in the automotive industry and very proud I was calling myself a shop owner, but very proud, kind of trying to sing it from the rooftops that, that this is a great business. The truth is, when someone put a number to the value of my business, it was more than I expected. And I was the sort of person who should have been able to maybe calculate that. I was more in that world than a lot of folks.
Mm-hmm.
And the number one thing when that happened. The number one thing that jumped out was that I didn't do this. And what made me most successful shop owner was understanding that after we got off the ground, the single best thing that I could do was become the employer of choice. And that meant finding the right people, putting them in a position to succeed. So I was able to take the proceeds from selling the business and pay the employees. It varied depending on how long they'd been with the shop, but a couple years worth of income each for sort of my top guys as a thank you, and still walk away with an amount that I felt very comfortable with. So
good for you.
It was one of the most emotional moments that I've ever had, and something I'm very proud of. I don't know how to make it something that everyone should do. It's not so simple. A lot of things had to happen, but
Anders, many of our coaches in the industry are former shop owners, sold their business, and they got some great stories to tell, and they've really done a great job because of their experience helping other business people, shop owner business people. When you read the E-Myth from Michael Gerber, and especially I think it was the third edition of it, in the first paragraph, I believe, or the first chapter, it said that every decision that you make in your business, you make it toward the goal of selling or succeeding in your business, so that they're really smart decisions along the way. Because you have done this before and it's fairly fresh for you, do you help your clients understand that many of the decisions that they're working on today is all for that?
It's one of the frameworks, right? It's something that is important to keep in mind because, again, I think entrepreneurship is part of the quote unquote American dream. And it is not, just like you say in what you write, that profit is not the enemy. It's okay to say that I'm setting out on this journey to build something very valuable.
Yeah, financial freedom, financial wealth. And everybody thinks it's a paycheck to paycheck kind of world. And I hope I can meet the payroll if we get enough cars at the end of the week. My goal has always been to stretch our thinking down to the levels, the next level, from the top tier to the people who want to get up to that top tier. There's so many opportunities to fix cars and trucks for people. When you think about, and I think it sometimes takes a hit over the head, how many vehicles are registered in your town? Count the number of shops. Do you think anyone else's competition? There's more work for all of us. Who wants to be the preferred place with the best experience and the best people? Compete against yourself to be the best.
That was such a valuable lesson that I learned running a shop. Competition is, I'm not going to say is meaningless, but competition is nothing to run away from. It is such a, as you said, personal battle than it is the actual, or as opposed to what so many people perceive it to be, which is, I'm competing against that guy. You're really not. You need to be the best version of yourself.
Go have coffee with the guy down the road or up the road or in the town next over and develop yourself some friendships and some networks and be involved in the community. Frankly, it's not easy. Right. It's hard. It's easy enough to say, here's the top 12 or 20 things that you have to think about and do. And you need to change your mind from being constantly in the bays, not only physically, but mentally.
Right.
And get up above and hover over your business and touch all these critical areas of it. Yeah. And because you've been there and done that, and so many other coaches have, they really do so well. It's almost like the coaches are great. So it's a matter of a personality match that's more important than anything, right?
Absolutely. People struggle with different parts of running a business. The numbers and procedures are just one component, one struggle that folks have. I mean, there are way a large range, and I know you've talked to other coaches about, of just roadblocks, mental roadblocks, challenges that people run into. But you have to have all of them at some level. And so it's not fair to say that one is more important than the other. But, I think for a coach, it's to identify which one that person struggles with so that you can bring forward the most value.
Let's wrap this thing up. Give me some ideas on how to create a great incentive plan for a specialist working in the bays.
Absolutely. That was We had two different types of incentive plans. We would sort of have our immediate or short-term incentive plans and then our longer-term incentive plans. Where I was successful was knowing that I wanted my employees to do many things, right? I wanted technicians to, meet multiple KPIs, let's say, but it was really hard to incentivize on each individual KPI. So I developed a system to, okay, these are the 4 or 5 different things that I'm really interested in tracking and optimizing. And I'm going to take those and turn them and summarize them into results so that I can, effectively communicate how you performed, and then build big, hairy incentives on top of it. An incentive has to be an incentive.
BHAGs.
Yeah. It has to be an incentive. It can't be a nice to have. It has to, make a difference.
Richly rewarding.
Right. Yep.
Give me some ideas. Give me one idea of what would be a BHAG richly rewarding incentive.
My general rule of thumb was all of my employees had a base salary, right? So my general rule of thumb was that if they were to receive a bonus or an incentive, that it needed to be 30% or more of what that base salary was for them to be like, okay, that's something.
That's something I got to chase.
Yeah, this is something that I have to chase. And so that was always kind of my floor, and we would go up from there in terms of how folks could achieve even more. But
selling cabin airs, finding tire opportunity, what?
Well, that's my point. I will never say that every shop should incentivize the exact same actions, right? That, what I was trying to achieve was the perfect combination when it comes to selling tires or selling cabin airs or something like that. There is no perfect formula there. The point is to pick one that achieves the results that you'd like to achieve, and then, like I said, just make it a real incentive. So if that thing happens, that this person will feel it, that your employee will feel it in their paycheck.
Is it individual or team?
Both. There's no reason why you can't have both. I like both and would do a combination.
I had a blast.
Yeah.
This was fun.
Likewise. Thank
Anders
you,
Gustafson, co-founder, ShopLevers, former shop owner, 10 years, couple of shops out in Virginia, right?
That's right. Yeah, Southeastern Virginia, Norfolk.
Yeah, good for you. Appreciate your talking points here, and I learned an awful lot. Remember, the news, change the news, because the news is just the numbers, and that's all it is. And tomorrow, yesterday, they're gone. Tomorrow, who knows?
That's right. Change the news. I love to hear it.
Thanks, man.
Bye.
Bye.